Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to the Business of Creativity podcast, the unofficial podcast of the Pepperdine Grazie Dio Business School. We are joined by Lana Frazier. Lana is in her first trimester of the fully employed MBA program here at Grazie Dio. Greetings, Lana. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
I'm happy to have you on. First trimester, so now you're trying to figure out how to study, trying to figure out if these classes are too hard, too easy. Does the professor really know what the professor's talking about? All those types of questions you have when you're just starting off working on your MBA. You're leaning towards a finance concentration, right? Is what you told me.
Yep.
Did your undergrad at UCLA, studied political science. You were also a student athlete. You were a discus thrower on the track team. Currently, you work at a place called B. Riley Advisory Services as an associate, and B. Riley is an asset appraisal and liquidation firm, right? You've been there for 2.5 years. And one reason I wanted to have you on is because you have your own small business, an eBay store called Frazier's Closet, where you sell designer clothes and purses, mainly at the current moment, women's fitness clothes, Lululemon, Athletica, those types of things. And I find it interesting that you've been doing this since you were in undergrad. And I was a student athlete in undergrad at Michigan State. And the time factor to be able to run a business, especially something where you go to find clothes, I guess you get them from outlets and thrift stores, garage sales, new and used, and then to be able to put them up on eBay and sell them, I think there's a factor of time there that I don't know if I would have had the time as a football player back at Michigan State, but I appreciate you've done it. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that. You've been out of school 2.5 to 3 years, I guess. What brought you to get your MBA? What made you focus on that, especially since you're thinking about finance?
As long as I can remember middle school, I always wanted an MBA.
Really?
And when I went to UCLA, I had actually started on the business track in economics, and then it wasn't working out. So I switched to political science, but I knew I wanted to go back and get that MBA so that if I ever, wanted to advance in my career in finance or in the business career, I would have that on my resume to show that I do have a background in business and not just in political science.
That's interesting. Who exposed you to an MBA when you were in junior high school?
My parents. College was always in my mind ever since, as long as I can remember. Actually, both my parents went to UCLA, and it was just, in my mind, there was no other option. So it was always my whole, my time in school was always preparing. I was always preparing to get to college, and wherever I want to go, I was always preparing for that.
Right. And the MBA just happened to be something you had heard about that was a business situation, and you thought you needed that when you were younger, huh?
Yeah, it was because both my parents had masters, and so I felt that I needed to also get a master's. Right. So then I was thinking, well, what would I want to do? And I always loved business. I would draw cards and sell them in elementary school. I was selling coupon books in elementary school and all those school things. And then I always liked it, and I always liked making money and doing things or doing my own things individually. So I thought that, this was business and this was something that I could progress my career with.
Right. And so political science, like, have you used that at all, or what is that type of situation doing for you right now?
I would say the writing skills and just the critical thinking skills from doing that degree has helped me a lot. And I guess coming back to school and just thinking how to solve problems. And then my current job, it's, even though my job is more in the financial field, it's a lot of just thinking and I still need to use those skills in my everyday life.
Right. Tell us a little bit about your role at B. Riley.
So at B. Riley, I'm an associate now, and what we do is we do appraisals for businesses. So typically the bank will come to us because a company has come to them to take out an asset-based loan. So then we will appraise the company we collect a lot of their financial information, like balance sheets, profit and loss statements, top customers, vendors, sales, and inventory is the most important piece. And then we'll analyze their inventory with all of those other aspects, and we'll determine a value that we think we can recover if that company has to go into a liquidation. And then we give that value, which is a percentage to the bank, and the bank uses that percentage to determine how much to loan the company. I guess that's a lot of information, but so what I do is a lot of the Excel and the kind of the math and number crunching in the background, and then I also get to visit the companies. So every deal we do, we get to do a site visit and actually see the company's inventory, communicating with the leaders, CFOs and controllers and CFO or CEOs sometimes, and then we will make our report and send it to the bank.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's actually insight. And it sounds like you like doing it.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
love
it's
it.
what I'm getting through this conversation. Yeah, really? I guess it's probably also exposing you to some things in terms of your own business, right? In terms of how to approach valuation and how to approach essentially appraising what your business is or could possibly be worth if you did make some tweaks here and there in what you do. I want you to tell us a little bit about your business, Frazier's Closet, which is an eBay store. Talk to us a little bit about the concept from, when you were young selling coupon books at school to, if I can go buy these good Lululemon sweats here for $20 and sell them for $75, that's good business sense. So tell us a little bit how you got into that and the progression of it over the last few years.
So I actually started, it was a summer before I was going to start at UCLA, and I had no financial aid.
So right after high school?
Yeah, right after high
Oh, wow.
school,
Okay.
probably 2 years after high school. And I had I had gotten $500 from my parents in my graduation money. And I just, I guess we would always go to thrift stores, like me and my mom and my sister, and I would find nice things, but they might not be things that I would wear or that I particularly liked. And then my mom had always bought stuff on eBay when I was younger. So then I was like, well, since I don't have any financial aid, why don't I just start selling stuff on eBay? So I started with some of my personal things that I just didn't use anymore in my closet. And then I took that money that they gave me and I started buying stuff at the Goodwills. And it was at that time, it was very, very small dollar amounts, maybe 10, $20. Like you really don't need anything really to get started. So I would get like a couple things. You could get a shirt for $1.99 or $2.99, and then I post on eBay and get $20. So I started like that, and then as I went on, it just got bigger and bigger. And actually, my first year in college, it never got too big because I was living in the dorms, but I ended up moving back home to save money because my we didn't have the dorms were just adding to my student loans. So once I moved back home and I had my car, I would drive back and forth to UCLA, and I would just hit all the Goodwills from Woodland Hills to West LA, and I would go like maybe 4 or 5 days a week back then, and it was just so fun. And I would actually list things during class at school and during my free time at school, and I take the pictures in the evenings before the next day, and then I would package everything like either late each night or early morning, and we had a post office on campus, so I was coming to the post office every day at school with bags filled with packages.
And just sending stuff out, just blam. Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Sitting in math class on eBay listing
Yep.
these brand new shorts that I just found. That's hilarious. Wow, that's actually pretty interesting. You told me that you would find something for like $6 and turn around and sell it on eBay for like $60, right? In my mind, the profit margin on that is an excellent situation in terms of business sense. So tell me about when you're looking at things in these Goodwill stores or the outlets or other places that you go to. How do you know something is quality? Is it like how used it is, or just because of the name brand? Or tell me about your eye to discern something that would possibly sell in your store.
So when I first started, I only focused on name brands because that's all I knew, and I knew certain brands that I liked. So I actually only focused on what I liked. When I did that, it was Lululemon was very popular, and that was about 2015, and their used value was very high. Like I could find anything, even the very older items, maybe 5 to even 10 years older, and I could still get a good 30 bucks, $40 for a pair of pants that I got for $5 or $6. And then the newer items, that would be just an even bigger plus, like a newer shirt. That was like by newer, I mean a newer style. That could be $60 or more. And at the Goodwill, like all the pants were $5.99, all the shirts $4.99, all the tank tops $3.99 or $2.99. So that's how those costs stayed low. But then now, as I've noticed, certain brands are starting to flow out of
Yeah,
popularity.
fade and not be
Yeah,
trendy anymore or something like that, right?
yeah, I've had to really try to expand not only my brands but also my categories. So I used to strictly focus on just women's athletic apparel. So now I look for ski, snowboarding stuff that I know are good brands. I look for men's stuff, certain men's brands. I've started researching. Kitten is one, a high end like dress shirt brand, and other men's brands, sometimes kids brands. And then it's also the material. So I really focus on the material of the clothing. Like if it's wool, so a lot of some of those merino wool or wool items can be worth good money. And then with ski and snowboard wear, Gore-Tex, if I can figure out what material it is, or down, if it's a down fill and not just a polyester fill, it can really, like, that could be a jacket that goes from $20 to like literally 150, worth 150 bucks.
So what's interesting is, if speaking in MBA parlance, right? I don't know if you've had this entrepreneurship class or not, but you'll learn about the value proposition, right, for your business. And it seems like the unique value proposition for Frazier's Closet is your ability, the nuance of understanding trends, right? Whereas a brand may not be becoming, if I'm saying it right, less popular, but the styles may be actually trending in a different direction. So that brand may be changing the styles, and the stuff that people are selling at Goodwill or at outlets or at garage sales are the old style. So now you have to figure out a way to adjust to find the new styles that are actually trending up. So I think there's a there's value to that, and that's how you discern what is good and what is not good in terms of changing up the inventory that you have in your business. Tell me about your research methods and how you gauge. Is it just who's buying from you, or how else do you gauge in terms of what's trendy and what's not, and what's going out of style, what's coming in style?
So one of the biggest things is if I find something in a store, I can search it on eBay and I'll search sold. So immediately, if there's something I think might have some value, I'll just see what it's sold for or what the brand is sold for, and then I can immediately tell, like, okay, there's been 100 sales in the past week, and they're all at the $50 range. Then that's something where I can gauge if it's I guess a good buy. And then also sometimes I'll just go on Google and I'll just start searching like high end menswear, high end women's wear, and then I'll just start looking at brands and styles. And then I'll take those brands and styles, and then I'll look on eBay and I'll put them in eBay, and I'll search on the sold, and then I'll just go through all those sold listings and kind of try to see what price they sold for. And what they looked like, what the items looked like. Like, was it a button-down shirt, or was it a polo shirt, or was it a T-shirt? Because kind of similar to what you said, maybe only certain styles in that brand are valuable.
In terms of the business, and you'll have to forgive me to keep asking about the business, because I find it interesting that you've been doing this since fresh out of high school, and so you're still doing it. On eBay, if you look at it now, it says you have nearly 10,000 items sold over the past few years. You mentioned that, I guess it was last year, or actually over the 6 years, the highest amount of revenue you brought in was roughly around $55,000, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's big. That's more than people's salary, right? I mean, obviously you got to put the work in. So I think that's pretty significant. Talk about the ebb and flow of revenue over the last few years.
Man, that's been quite a challenge. So I guess I'll start with when I first started, it was low because I was just starting up. I was also in school, so I couldn't, when I was on the dorms, I couldn't leave really without, I didn't have my own car there. So it was low. But then in 2018, it just shot up. It went up to 52,000 in revenue 2018. And that was my but one of the best years because it was just so fun. And then it started trailing down 2019, kind of in the same range, but definitely lower, maybe in the 40 range. And then 2020 with COVID. So that was an anomaly. Things were normal somewhat at the beginning of 2020, and then 2020 hit, and it was like zero for like 3 months. And it was even worse because I couldn't, everything was closed. So not only were there no sales, but I couldn't even go out and buy things anyways. So there was just kind of nothing going on. But then oddly, the end of 2020, I had the highest months I ever did in all my time on eBay. So the last quarter of 2020, I did over 25,000 in just that quarter alone. And it was odd because I guess people things were opening back up little by little, and people maybe were getting back in, or they felt comfortable.
We're coming off the shock of the pandemic. You know, you're shocked for 2 months that I'm sitting at home and what's happening. And then all of a sudden then you realize, well, I'm at home. So let me fire up Netflix and do some online shopping. Oh, what is this? Let me get these sweats and these athletic wear that I can wear at home since everybody's using Zoom now. So interesting.
Yeah, and then 2021 was pretty steady, but now it's kind of been trailing down a little bit. And especially the past couple months of this year has been really low for me.
What is your diagnosis process to figure out what's going on now? Why are things going down? Like, how are you diagnosing what the issue is?
I feel that it has to do with eBay's system for how they like how the visibility. Because like I so now with Amazon, and Amazon's making it easier for the consumer, I think that eBay's really trying to compete. So those really top sellers that are doing probably hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and who also have thousands of items in their eBay stores, and who can offer free returns and really maximize everything that eBay wants a seller to have. I think they're really boosting them and really advertising for them their on their platform. And I think I'm getting pushed down in the search a little bit because I'm not able to offer free returns. I now have started offering returns, but I'll offer buyer pays return shipping. And then I also don't pay extra sometimes for those marketing
Yeah,
things
those
per
things that
eBay
other
because,
people can do.
yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting to me. So, do you study the competition pretty closely and see what they have, what's selling? Obviously, when you said you do a search on what's sold, that's basically studying what other people are selling. So,
I used to like more closely lately. I haven't been looking at the competition too much, but you can actually go on specific sellers pages and you can search and see specifically what they've sold recently. So I used to go and just see what they've sold, and there's this one seller, and they are selling Lululemons for very high amounts that I'm not even getting as high as what they're getting, and I really couldn't figure out how they were getting such high sales dollars. But I think it's their presence because they have such a larger presence than I do. They also had newer items, like very new items, and a lot of brand new items. Um,
that's interesting. They're getting them off the ship, huh? They got a plug somewhere. They got the
yeah, I
Lululemon
don't know
plug.
where
That's
they're getting
hilarious.
them.
Okay, so I got a few more questions here about this. So, thinking about, you mentioned that your diagnosis of why your sales are trending down at the current moment in the last few months is possibly because of eBay's new policies as they try to compete with Amazon, and you are not fully bought into the new policies just yet, and you think that affects how you're listing and when people do searches. So I wonder if you've considered other outlets to sell, right? Are you stuck on eBay, or where are you on this in terms of a transition maybe?
So yes, I used to sell on Poshmark in addition to eBay and Mercari. Poshmark I liked, but they take too much percentage. They take 20%, whereas eBay's still at 10%, and I really get a lot of nice perks through eBay. And then Mercari, I really love Mercari's platform. I actually started that in 2019 because a friend that I met at work recommended it to me, and I like them because they take the same percentage as eBay, and the buyers actually only have 3 days to file a complaint, and then after that it's done. Whereas on eBay now, buyers have 30 days, and whatever they say goes, even if they're wrong. But it didn't used to be like that on eBay. eBay used to you could call them, and they could actually look in and read what the buyer says and make an actual decision. But now whatever the buyer says just goes. But I kind of come back off of Mercari only because I noticed I would spend a lot of time listing, and then I wasn't seeing a high volume in sales very much. But I probably should go back on there and try some more. And then I would also only put certain items on those other avenues because only higher end items, or maybe things that are more highly sought after, would do a better job on Mercari or Poshmark opposed to eBay. You could put things that you might not get as much, things that I just need to get rid of. I know I could put on eBay and get rid of them, but if I put them on Mercari, they just sit.
I'll ask a couple questions here about the business, one, and then one further question about the MBA, and then we can wrap the conversation. It's been a great conversation so far. So I imagine in terms of clothing that one of the biggest costs now or would be in the future if you were to grow, or like you mentioned those other stores with thousands of items, is a storage cost or inventory, the cost of storing inventory, right? Do you have that problem yet, or do you just have a bunch of plastic bins in your house where you have a bunch of clothes at the current moment? And then a follow up to that is the turnover, right? If things aren't selling, do you take it back to Goodwill? Of course, being here at Pepperdine is a SEER school, right? The SEER certificate, socially, environmentally, and ethically responsible business strategy. It's Pepperdine's version of the corporate social responsibility. So I wonder where you are on that aspect in terms of the turnover of clothes. You don't want to be like a Forever 21, which is just, making too many clothes, and now they have a bunch of stuff that they just throw away and stuff like that. So talk to us a little bit about that inventory issue, and then the turnover on clothes that you don't sell.
Yeah, so you hit it the nail right on the head. I used to store all these plastic bins under my bed. Um,
Wow.
and now I've recently moved and now have a little garage and a nice little closet which is filled with plastic bins. So far I don't have to pay for anything yet. I have my parents' property and they have they built two sheds. One of them was for me and my mom eBay stuff, so I can store things there if I really need to. And then also, like you said, if things are not selling, I will first just start the bidding at 99 cents, try to get rid of it. Start the bidding at a penny, try to get rid of it. If I really can't get rid of it, then I'll just donate it back to Goodwill.
Okay. Just get it back so it doesn't just go in the trash or anything.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
people could potentially use it. I think that's excellent, right? You want to look out for where you can look out for, right? You want to make sure people get the things they need. The final question here is about the MBA program. I wonder, you mentioned that you want in junior high, you told yourself you want to get an MBA, right? Now you are executing on that promise you made yourself many years ago. I wonder, what do you want to get out of it? Is it just the business education knowledge, or is it the prestige of having an MBA? Is there something specific you want to get from Pepperdine, or tell me a little bit about the outcomes you want to get from the MBA program?
I would say first, it's really to learn, just learn more about business. And like I've been doing this, for a couple of years, and I've really gotten stuck in my ways. And I know that it's probably not the best way that I could be doing everything. So now in this program, I want to learn other ways and other avenues that I can really optimize my business. And also, I don't really see like the business can never grow much higher with only me doing it. So with Pepperdine, I want to see like if I either need to expand with other people or I need to get a new idea. So I think doing this program will allow me to just learn how to build a new business or how to expand my business, how to improve my business. It is also the prestige of having that MBA on my resume and what I've always sought to accomplish. And also knowing that or being able just to learn because I wasn't able to get the entire business degree in my undergrad. So now being able to just continue it and really get that degree is important to me. And also just meeting people. Like I'm just so excited to be here with everyone who's like-minded and everyone's here for the same reason. And hoping to find people that just really have a passion for business and that I can people that I might, have business relationships with in the future or people that I can really learn from.
Yeah, that's excellent. So you want to learn, if can you scale your business up? Do you need to be innovative and create a new business? Essentially, can you take the concepts that you've been working on since high school, well, before high school, right, and make that into something new? There's the cohort and the colleagues you want to meet and the network of people who are in the business community. And then also specifically having an MBA after your name on your credentials. I think that's excellent, Lana. This has been an excellent conversation. I really appreciate you joining us on the Business of Creativity podcast.
Thank you so much.
That was Lana Frazier. She's in her first year in the fully employed MBA program here at Pepperdine Grazie Dio. And of course, I am Ty Brown, second year full-time MBA student. And this is the Business of Creativity podcast, the unofficial podcast of the Pepperdine Grazie Dio Business School. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today.